Hello everyone, welcome back to the part 2 of the Somnath temple modeling series. So in the previous video, we have modeled this model, and in this video we are going to move it further. And so without wasting much time, let's start the video. So now I am hiding each of these extra models, and we will just focus on this main object. So here you can see this lowermost portion is having a structure which is very similar to the pillars. So we need to model that kind of structure, and so here I am just adding a circle, and we need to place it at the correct position. And again we need to reduce the scale also. So selecting the circle and going to the edit mode, you can scale it downward, but before that turn off the proportional editing if it is on. And now again it is a very simple process. You can just keep on extruding the circle and just try to match it with the reference, and that is the only process. So just keep on extruding, and I think I must fast forward this uh, process as it is very simple and you can just follow it. So once you model the pillar, what we can do is we can just select that pillar and just duplicate it and place it at the another pillar which is given in the reference. Now just duplicate as many as time it is given in the reference, and in this way you can just add those lowermost walls of the temple. Just make sure that there are no gaps between those pillars, otherwise it would create problem. So just place it properly. Now we can select each of these pillars and hide all the unnecessary things and just duplicate it, and what we can do is we can mirror them along the X global and just place it at the correct position. So here you can see we have modeled those pillars, and now just place each of these pillars at the correct position while looking from the topmost view. So here you can see we have placed them properly. Now what we can do is selecting those pillars and add a mirror modifier and just mirror it along the y-axis, so that the pillars will also mirror along each of those axes. Now selecting this object and into the edit mode, what we can do is we can select the lowermost loop of this object. So here I have selected this lowermost loop, and we can fill these gaps. Now add a plane and place it properly at its position. Now into the edit mode, scale it downward and just extrude it along the Z direction, and then keep on following the reference image. It doesn't need to be exact, just keep on following the reference and you will get those pattern of the pillars. And now add a mirror modifier and mirror it along that object. And here you can see it is not properly placed along the y-axis. So place it properly along the y-axis and then into the edit mode, selecting this loop and bevel it so that the edge of those pillars will be smooth and they won't be looking sharp enough. So do this beveling with all of the 4 edges. So here you can see I have beveled each of those edges, and now what we can do is we can just select this middle portion and extrude those middle faces along the x-axis, so that there will be no gaps between the pillar. And here you can see the gaps is removed, and now what we can do is we can unhide each of those temple objects that we have made, and with this object selecting this back faces, and we can extrude them along the y-axis so that it will be attached to the our main object, and it won't be floating into the somewhere into the random air. Now duplicate this object and into the edit mode, scale it along the Z direction, now selecting these faces, extrude it along the y-axis so that there will be the cavity in between those pillar like looking object, and just scale it properly so that its size matches with the reference image. Now what we need to do is we need to make the base of this object so that there will be some structure which will be holding this object, and for that I have just filled those gaps with this bottommost vertices, and then extrude them along the z-axis, scale it properly, and then finally extrude it along the z-axis one more time. And you can obviously fill those gaps between the object, you can fill those gaps. So here you can see I have been struggling with filling the gaps. The best solution was to extrude that uppermost portion rather than instead of filling those gaps with different number of vertices. So it would be very terrible thing. So the solution would be to just extrude it along the z-axis and just leave the gap, and that don't actually fill the gap but just extrude it along the z-axis. So that will be the best solution. So now I have unhide all this object, and with this view of this object selected, you can again hide the remaining objects, and now we will further model this lowermost portion. So I have again adding a cube and placing it over here, scale it properly, bring it in front of this object, and now select this face, extrude it, scale it, and then extrude it along the z-axis, bevel it. From the back of the pillar that we have made, we can unhide them, and into the edit mode, select the whole pillar, shift D to duplicate it, P and separate that pillar from that object. And now using this separated pillar, scale it downward and just place it at the proper position. Again, we need to duplicate this. This we need to mirror this pillar along the cube, and here you can see it is looking amazing. Now selecting this cube, and what we can do is we can insert a face and then adding a loop cut over here. I just two of the loop cuts here you can see, and then selecting each of these edges, placing it properly at the center, and we can just simply extrude it along the z direction. And now just simply keep on extruding and keep on following the reference. So here you can see it has not been scaled properly along the y-axis. So for that, what we can do is we can just simply select this two of these loops, face loops, and then we can just scale them along the y-axis, so that there will be it will be attached to the pillars and the problem will be solved. So now here you can see I have just subdivided that face, and what we can do is we can simply select just a few of these faces, and with that selected, what we can do is so here I am just extruding each of these horizontally and vertically selected faces and extrude them. And just bevel them, and here you can see there is a pattern of horizontally and vertical lines crisscrossing each other along the wall of this particular object. And after completing this, you can just duplicate those pillars Now again selecting this object, and we can just follow the same process of extruding it along the Z direction and just following the reference. So here I am just extruding that lowermost portion, and so here you can see we have just finished this modeling of this much portion, and I think it would be too much long for this video to continue further, as a lot of things are remaining to be modeled, and we will model those things into the next video. And till then, have a nice day. I know this series is quite long, but even our selected model is also very complicated, so it would be a very long series. So till then, just keep watching the videos.